Hershey's. Born in 1900 in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, the Hershey's bar became America's first mass-produced chocolate. Milton Hershey had already made a fortune selling his caramel company, but he wanted to create affordable chocolate for average Americans, not just the wealthy. He developed a mass production process that's still closely guarded today. The exact formula remains proprietary, but one ingredient stands out. Hershey's uses butyric acid in the milk, which also happens to be found in Parmesan cheese. This gives the chocolate a distinctive tangy, slightly sour taste that Americans grew up with and love, but Europeans often describe as revolting. Hershey built an entire town around his factory called Hersheyville, complete with schools, parks, and housing for workers. During World War II, Hershey created the D-ration bar for soldiers, designed not to melt in tropical heat and intentionally tasted terrible, so troops wouldn't eat their emergency rations too quickly. Over 120 years later, the formula remains essentially unchanged, shaping the national palate and creating a taste divide that persists across the Atlantic. Snickers. Born in 1930 in Minneapolis, Snickers became the best-selling candy bar in the world and was named after a horse. Frank Mars and his son Forrest named it after their favorite horse, Snickers, who had died shortly before the bar's launch. The original formula combined nougat, peanuts, caramel, and milk chocolate in layers, and it hasn't changed since 1930. What made Snickers revolutionary was combining multiple textures in one bar. Chewy nougat, crunchy peanuts, smooth caramel, and creamy chocolate created a more complex eating experience than single-texture competitors. The Mars family remains notoriously private, running their business as a fierce rival to Hershey's in a competition that's lasted nearly a century. The bar generates over $2 billion in annual sales globally. In the UK, it was bizarrely renamed Marathon from 1930 until 1990, when Mars finally switched it back to Snickers, outraging British fans. Reese's. Born in 1928 in Pennsylvania, Reese's peanut butter cups were created by a former Hershey employee in his basement and eventually bought by his former employer. H.B. Reese was a dairy farmer who worked for Milton Hershey before leaving to start his own candy business. He began making peanut butter cups by hand in his basement. The innovation was simple but untapped. No major candy maker had combined peanut butter and chocolate at scale. What made the situation unusual was that Reese bought his chocolate directly from Hershey's while simultaneously competing against them in the candy market. After H.B. Reese died in 1963, Hershey purchased the entire Reese's company, bringing the operation full circle. The cup shape creates the perfect chocolate-to-peanut butter ratio that fans obsess over. The peanut butter itself is proprietary, slightly grainy and sweeter than regular peanut butter. The bright orange packaging became one of the most recognizable colors in candy aisles. Today, Reese's is the second best-selling candy in America and the top choice for Halloween. KitKat. Born in 1935 in York, England, KitKat started as Rowntree's Chocolate Crisp before being renamed in 1937, possibly after an 18th century London political club called the KitKat Club. The bar features 4 fingers of layered wafers covered in chocolate, designed specifically to snap apart and share. Nestlé bought Rowntree in 1988, acquiring KitKat rights globally except in the United States, where Hershey had already secured licensing. This created lasting confusion. Hershey makes KitKat in America. Nestlé makes it everywhere else, and the formulas differ slightly. The breaking ritual is intentional. KitKat was engineered to snap cleanly, creating a satisfying sound and physical action. Have a break. Have a KitKat became the slogan in 1957 and remains unchanged. Japan transformed KitKat into something unexpected. Over 300 regional flavors exist there, including wasabi, sake, sweet potato, and matcha. The name is also a homophone for kitokatsu, meaning you will surely win, making it a popular good luck gift. Milky Way. Born in 1923 in Minneapolis, Milky Way was Frank Mars's first major success before he created Snickers. The bar was inspired by malted milk drinks popular at soda fountains, and Mars wanted a portable version people could eat anywhere. The name came from those malted milk drinks, not the galaxy. What creates massive confusion is that the UK Milky Way is completely different from the American version. British Milky Way has lighter nougat and no caramel, resembling what Americans call Three Musketeers. What Europeans call a Milky Way, Americans call Three Musketeers. What Americans call Milky Way doesn't exist in that form in Britain. This transatlantic naming disaster has caused decades of confusion for travelers and candy enthusiasts. The success of Milky Way funded the Mars family's expansion into Snickers and the Mars bar. During the Great Depression, it was marketed as an affordable meal replacement, appealing to struggling families. Butterfinger. Born in 1923 in Chicago, Butterfinger was created by Otto Schneering's Curtis Candy Company. The original formula featured a crispy peanut butter core, coated in chocolate, with a texture unlike any other candy. Butterfinger's signature is its flaky, shattery consistency that crumbles when you bite it. The bar changed hands repeatedly, from Curtis to Standard Brands, to Nabisco, to Nestlé, and finally Ferrero in 2018. Between 1988 and 2001, Bart Simpson became the face of Butterfinger with the Nobody Better Lay a Finger on My Butterfinger campaign. Then, disaster struck. In 2019, Ferrero changed the recipe, using different chocolate and altering the texture. Fans revolted immediately. Online petitions appeared, complaints flooded social media, and some threatened boycotts. The new version was less flaky and had a different mouthfeel. Sales declined and never recovered. Today, Butterfinger exists as a cautionary tale about changing beloved formulas. Three Musketeers. Born in 1932 in Minneapolis during the Great Depression, Three Musketeers originally came as three separate pieces. The bar was named after Alexandre Dumas' novel and featured three distinct flavors: chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry nougat. Each piece had a different flavor, and friends could share them. Then, World War II changed everything. Sugar and dairy rationing made it impossible to produce all three flavors, so Mars eliminated vanilla and strawberry, keeping only chocolate. After the war ended, the company never brought back the original trio. What could have been a three-flavor experience remained permanently simplified because of wartime necessity. The name Three Musketeers now refers to nothing about the actual product. It's just chocolate nougat covered in chocolate, a single flavor bar with a plural name. The bar remains popular despite its misleading name, a permanent reminder of how temporary wartime measures became permanent corporate decisions. Baby Ruth. In 1921 in Chicago, Baby Ruth was created by Otto Schneering's Curtis Candy Company, with a naming story that's almost certainly a lie. The company claimed it was named after President Grover Cleveland's daughter, Baby Ruth Cleveland, who died in 1904, 17 years before the candy bar launched. The obvious truth is that Babe Ruth was at the absolute peak of his baseball fame in 1921, and the timing was suspicious. Babe Ruth himself sued Curtis for unauthorized use of his name, but the company won by sticking to their presidential daughter story. Ruth couldn't legally prove it was named after him. The irony is that Ruth later endorsed a competing candy called Ruth's Home Run Candy Bar, which failed completely. By 1995, historians confirmed that Baby Ruth Cleveland was barely remembered by the public in 1921, making the company's claim even more dubious.